This session is entitled How to Love a Wife, and so if you have your handout and you want to fill it out, why, you need to turn to that one. It's great to see you here. When you have your children, or maybe you still have children at home, I want you to build memories. I want you to deliberately have traditions that are characteristic of your family. Do things that give your children a sense of value in family. I don't know all the ways to do that, but I know that you'll find them. Cindy and I have been blessed now with 3 grandchildren. That's a pretty neat thing. That's pretty wonderful. Ezra is our eldest, and Ezra has bright red hair, and he's 4, and he's extraordinary. I made him a swing for Christmas with rope and a board and hung it on a tree out there, and his other grandfather, with whom I'm in competition, of course, for Ezra's affection, I'm teasing, gave him a motorcycle, electric motorcycle. And Ezra then declared that he liked the swing the best of all of his presents. So I'm acting a little bit snug toward my, smug. By the way, Brian, did you hear about the swing? That's kind of fun. When Ezra was about 6 months old, his dad and I got him his rifle. And you don't want to wait too long about that. It took a long time, and we discussed which one to get him. And I'm perfectly serious. And we decided on a Henry Golden Boy, a .22 caliber with an octagon barrel and a lever action, a Golden Boy rifle. It wasn't cheap. At the time, Ezra had 6 living fathers, a dad, 2 grandfathers, and 3 great-grandfathers. They were spread out, and so we took some time. We bought a good box of cartridges, and we took the gun to every one of the fathers, and every father shot it once. Cindy's dad was 95, and he could barely walk. He's gone now, but I said, Lee, I want you to shoot this rifle. I want you to just point it over there and shoot it in the ground. And he said, you want to be able to say that Lee Holder shot this gun, don't you? Yes, sir, I do. And he shot it. All 6 fathers shot that gun out of that same box of cartridges. And all 6 fathers took the book that came with it and wrote a little note to baby Ezra about themselves and about their dreams for little Ezra, and dated it and how old they were at the time. And then we sealed it all up in its box, and we put it in the safe. And now he won't know about this, and I don't want you to tell him. He won't know about it until I hope I'm alive and I get to give it to him on the occasion of his wedding. That's the plan. So I'm going to call him aside, maybe the night before, I don't know, but if I'm alive, Ezra, I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to give you this gun. You wouldn't give a gun like that to a boy when he's 15, but I'm real fond of that boy, real fond of him. I want to talk tonight, and that's kind of irrelevant to what I want to talk about, but I was just thinking about it. I want you to make memories. I want you to make traditions for your children and for your grandchildren. You've got to emphasize home. You've got to value home and family so that they'll grow up valuing these things. How to love a wife. Now here's Ephesians chapter 5, beginning in 22, with which you're at least somewhat familiar. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church, and he's the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives. You know what? If he'd have left it right there, it'd have been a lot easier, because we could have sort of designed this thing in the way that we wanted to. Love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Well, that really steps it up. But he's not finished yet, and gave himself for her. You know what that means? It means that this obligates you to love her enough to die for her. That's what Jesus did for the church. That's what that says. I need to love her like Christ loved the church. How do you know? I remember a woman saying to her husband, Fred, you always say that you love me enough to die for me, but you never do it. Well, how would you know if you love your wife enough to die for her? And the answer is, if you wouldn't live for her, you wouldn't die for her. And is there Is there anything in your world that you wouldn't be willing, except for your faith in Jesus Christ, your connection to our Lord? Is there anything you wouldn't give up for your marriage if you were called to do it? I know a man in Alabama right now, not where I live, but a different place, but I know him well. And years ago, I was close to he and his wife. And he loves to fish, not just a little bit. He fishes professionally. I don't understand that exactly, how that works. I've never been paid for fishing, but he was. Had things on the side of his boat, and it was a big deal. But he was a loudmouth, and he would make it clear to his wife, that he loved fishing the best. And one day she decided to leave him, and she did. And he came to me and he said, I would crawl on glass to get to her if she'd come back to me. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I want to ask you a question. She says, she knew I liked fishing before we married. Is there anything in your world that you wouldn't give up for your marriage, except your connection to Jesus Christ? If the answer is, there's something I wouldn't give up, then you're messing up on this passage right here. But continue on now. That it might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. That is to say that I need to work in my Christianity and as the leader of my home to help her be the best Christian that she can be. That He might present her to Himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love now listen to this, ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. You know that saying on the t-shirt, when mama's happy, Isn't this similar to that? Do yourself a favor and love your wife. No one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. We're members of His body, of His flesh, of His bones. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Now, I want to launch this session about how to love a wife from 1 Peter 3:7. The first 6 verses are about how a woman is to treat her husband if she's a Christian and he's not. Now, that's going to happen. It's always been true that there were situations like this. I mean, it might not be that she's a Christian and she fell in love with a non-Christian. Maybe that happens, but it's often true that one spouse becomes a Christian before the other. And so here she is married to an unbeliever and he's not interested. And so the first 6 verses are how she's supposed to behave herself to have the best opportunity to bring him to the Lord. But you get to verse 7 and he shifts gears and he talks to husbands. Now husbands, I want you to dwell with your wives according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Dwell with them according to knowledge. I think there's some kinds of affection that we have that we get from, just nature that God put in us, instinct. And there are other kinds of affection that we get by knowledge, that we are trained to understand. When I was 13 or 14 years old, I knew that one day I wanted to get married and I wanted to marry a woman. It never occurred to me that I would want to marry a man. I wanted a woman. Now, nobody told me that. No, I didn't have to be taught that. That's instinctive, right? God put that. When our first child, Caleb, was born, I was in the delivery room. I wouldn't take $1 million for that. That memory of holding, that he was born and the doctor caught the baby and cut the cord, gave the baby to the nurse, and she cleaned the baby up a little bit, wrapped in swaddling clothes, and then handed the baby to me first. He's got my nose, It was amazing. My father didn't understand that. In his generation, they weren't permitted. Dads were not permitted in the delivery rooms. I told him, we're going to have this baby, next month, and I'm going to be present for the birth. He said, Glenn, isn't that somewhat like an appendectomy? No. But when that baby was born, and this is the point I want to make, nobody ever had to say to me, Glenn, I want you to love this boy. Nobody said that. Are you kidding? There were emotions in me that I'd never felt before. I had a son. I had a child. And I was responsible for that little guy. And I loved him. I love him today. There's some kinds of affection that you have that are instinctive. I came tonight to say There's some kinds of affection that are not. And when you talk about how to love a wife, this passage says, I want you to dwell with your wives according to knowledge. Let me extrapolate from that what we've got to do is to learn how to communicate affection to our wives in ways that they understand. And we're different about this. If you poll the men in this marriage seminar and ask them what is the best way to receive affection from your wife, you'll get one answer. If you ask the wives the same question in the reverse, you'll get different kinds of answers. I think it's kind of funny, really. It's kind of amusing that when people are young and they decide to marry, well, both of them are eager to show affection and would tell you so. But they may be thinking about completely different things. There are 5 categories I want to show you. Let's learn, gentlemen. Let's spend some time. And some of this is going to be familiar to you, but I'm not sure all of it will. Let's go through 5 categories of ways that you show affection to your wife that she understands, ways that communicate to her. The first is the Cary Grant category. Now, I don't know, I hope all of you remember Cary Grant. I just want to make these memorable. Cary Grant was a movie actor and very famous for being a romantic kind of fellow. So I'm going to do this one first because I think this one is most self-evident. You want to show affection to your wife in things that we would consider to be romantic gestures. So when you take her to dinner, you sometimes take your wife to dinner. I would suggest that you don't wait till the last minute because you're hungry. Sometimes I do that. You want to go out and get a sandwich? You're much better. It's much better in your wife's mind if you think of it the day before and you say, will you go out with me tomorrow night? Would you go to dinner with me tomorrow night? Now remember that all of these have a couple of things in common. One is that you've got to think of it. It's directly tied to you affirming her. She needs to know that you love her and that you think of her even when she's not around. You didn't decide one day, I think I'm going to have a frequent need for intimacy. Well, she didn't decide that she would grow up and have a frequent need for affection, for affirmation of your love. She needs that affirmation. And you show it in these kinds of ways. The Cary Grant category is the one where you get a sticky pad, and sometimes you'll write her a little note and you'll just leave it stuck to something in the house, and she'll find that, something affectionate to her. That'll mean a lot to her. Sometimes you'll write her a letter and you'll mail it, even though you live in the same house. I heard of a man that when his wife, she liked to take a shower instead of a bath, and if she was taking a shower, he'd sneak in there and get her towel and go put it in the clothes dryer for just 4 or 5 minutes, and then he would put it back on the rack and get out. And so when she reached for the towel, it would be very warm, and she would think, what a man, what a man. Heard of a man who would he'd get some dry erase markers, and when he got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, he would go in the bathroom where she was going to get dressed the next morning, and on the mirror he would write something nice to his wife. That's the Cary Grant category. The Cary Grant category opens her doors. The Cary Grant category is buying her flowers sometimes. You buy your wife flowers? I know that not all women like them. Most do. I mean, I like flowers. They're okay with me. I think they're pretty and they smell like a funeral and they're nice and all. But I'm okay if Cindy never buys me any flowers. Really, because but I buy them for her. Now you can go to Walmart and for about $7 or $8 you can get a fistful of flowers. And I'm not listen, I use myself as illustration a lot, but I'm not a perfect husband. I know that. But sometimes I'll just stop by Walmart on the way home from work and pick up a fistful and fresh flowers, and we have a way of doing it. I put them behind my back, and we've been married 38 years. And I'll come in and she'll say, what's behind your back? And then we play this little game. Oh, nothing. What are you talking about? Then we'll go back and forth a bit, and then I show them. I don't know why. I don't understand the flower thing. I don't know why she likes them so much, what the big deal is. But I understand something about her eyes. And when I give her flowers, I understand that. I understand that. And that's why I do it. The Cary Grant category is the kinds of things that you'd think of as being romantic. And when Hannah, our daughter, was still living at home and she's married and she gave us 2 grandchildren, Cindy and Hannah both had cars, and my job was to keep them maintained and also to make sure that in the glove compartment I have proof of registration and proof of insurance in their cars. And you have an envelope that you put that stuff in. On the outside of the envelope it says, "Give this to the policeman," right? That's how you do that. And you probably have something like that. The Cary Grant category would be to write a note and put in that envelope that says, "Honey, if you're reading this, it may be that you've had an accident, and I want you to know I don't care about this car. I just care about you." All right? That you're communicating something. How are you doing on that? Now see, a lot of that stuff you don't do that because it's natural for you. You do that because you think about it. It's about knowledge. When you got married, back up, when you decided to marry, action followed feeling. You had a feeling first, a feeling for this woman, and you acted on that feeling. Feeling came first and then action. You wanted to marry her, and that's what you did. After you marry, very often that's turned around. And feeling follows action. That is, we do some things in anticipation of the feelings. I want to have these feelings. And so we act. Now look, it's real easy in a marriage seminar to think, and maybe you've already thought this a time or two, "I'm really glad my wife's here. She needs this, boy. She really needs this." That's a mistake. You know what? In life, I doubt that you can really change people. Hopefully you influence them for Christ, but you can't change people. You can change yourself. You can create an atmosphere for your wife where it's most conducive for her to be a great wife. But, all right, here we go. The Cary Grant category. Here's the second one. The Mr. Clean category. Okay, now, this one may trip you up a little bit because you say, "Well, now, I thought these were romantic things, showing affection. Hard for me to connect those dots." Well, gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that your wife views voluntary help with the housework as an act of affection, a romantic act. You believe me? Cindy and I have a lot of company. We have a lot of people company, and we enjoy that. But now, Mrs. Colley, she's real serious about her house. It's an extension of her, and so when she has company come and she wants to clean that place, she cleans in places that nobody's going to look. And what I try to do is to come home from work a couple hours early, put on my jeans, and I'll say, now Cindy, I'm your slave for 2 hours. She'll always respond the same way. "Do you mean it?" "Yeah, I mean it. She'll say, "Will you clean the bathrooms?" "Yeah, I'll clean the bathrooms." And I don't do it very often, but I'm good at it. I'm good at it. And slap those chemicals and it'll be spick. And I go to her and I'll say, "Honey, the bathrooms are finished and you've still got 40 minutes left. What you want me to do?" "You mean it?" "Yeah." "Vacuum. Would you vacuum?" "I'll vacuum." Now, the Mr. Clean category, again, is this. It's very important that you get this. Your wife views voluntary, not if she has to nag you, but voluntary work on the housework as a romantic gesture. All right? 3, the Santa Claus category. Now, Christmas is easy. This one's about holidays, and I called it this, Santa Claus category, but it's not just about Christmas. It's that you've got to remember important dates. Again, it's tied to affirmation. You've got to remember the important dates. We have some friends in a state different from yours and mine, faithful Christians. In fact, he's now an elder in the church. They're wonderful people, but they've had this quirk in their marriage all these years. She was raised in what would be a more typical home about holidays. That is, they practiced holidays, Christmas and birthdays, and they gave gifts to one another, that sort of Valentine's Day. But he didn't. He grew up in a home, and to me this is kind of foreign, but he grew up in a home where they did not practice any such things. So birthday was just another day. You didn't remember that, or Christmas, or anniversary. There wasn't any such thing as that. They just didn't consider any of those to be having any significance. And so they got married, you know. Well, all through these years, that's been a challenge for her. So February rolls around and she goes to worship, and the women, you know, her friends will be standing around, and one of them says, "Hey, what'd your husband get you for Valentine's Day?" And one of them say, "Oh, my husband got me some chocolates and he got me some flowers." And the other one say, "He took me to dinner. My husband took me to dinner." Oh, that's wonderful. And they turn to this woman and say, "What did your husband do?" And she says, "Well, we don't go in for that sort of thing much." And the fact is, she just hurts over it. Listen to me. You do whatever you have to do to remind yourself of the important days, because it matters to your wife. It matters that you care enough to show her this kind of affection. I have some friends in Alabama, a different place from where I live, and he's a deacon in the church. They're lovely people, wonderful people, Bob and Sarah. One year, Bob came downstairs, getting ready to go to work, and it was Sarah's birthday. Truth is, he didn't remember. He didn't remember at all. And she was humming, she was fixing breakfast, and she was humming, and she was happy. Couldn't wait to see what he had planned for her birthday. He had nothing planned because he didn't remember it. And so he bounds through, gives her a little peck, and he goes out to the truck to get tools ready for the day. And he's digging around under the seat of the truck. This is a true story. And he finds a Hallmark Christmas card from last Christmas to Sarah that he just forgot to give to her. So he thinks that's kind of funny, and he comes in the house and says, "Hey, I got you a Christmas present." She thought he was teasing, that it's her birthday present, and she opens it up and she realizes he doesn't remember. And her countenance falls, her feathers drop. He doesn't remember my birthday. It's Wednesday. He goes to work, comes back and showers and gets her. And so that night they have what my grandmother used to call prayer meeting, had Bible study. And they get in the truck and they're headed home, and he says, "I need to stop off and get something at Walmart." And he buys a tackle box. And as he's coming, he opens the door of the truck and he pitches the tackle box in, and he says, "I bought myself a birthday present." That's true. At which time Sarah said, "Bob, it's not your birthday, it's mine." Now, gentlemen, I don't know how you get over that. I don't know how do you fix that? They're still married and all, but listen, you can't let that happen. So whatever you have to do, you do it to remember your anniversary, your wife's birthday, Valentine's Day, Christmas, all of those typical gift-giving occasions. You be sure you acknowledge those. Now, a couple of more things about gift giving to your wife. You need to wrap it. You wrap it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should I do? Glenn, I'm a man. Man, we can't wrap. It looks terrible. I know that. But you wrap it because don't give it to her in the sack, in the Walmart sack or whatever. That's no good. Remember that this is tied to affection. It's tied to communicating. This is important. It's tied to communicating to your wife that you're valuable to me, and I love you, and I think about you even when we're not together. Now look, here's a mistake that I sometimes make. Cindy and I will go. We've got a beautiful outdoor mall in Huntsville. Beautiful. And when the weather is good, it's just fun to go and get some dinner and then just to walk. And they've got some water out there. And go into the stores. It's just a nice way to spend an evening. And there's this dress store that she likes to go into. And so I go in there with her. And I'm a man, so I don't like to shop. But I like her. And so I buy her that fancy coffee that she loves so much. And we'll go into the store. And one day she looked over. She's really good with money. I never, ever worry about Cindy and money. I never do. Always very frugal, and she's careful, and she loves things on sale. So anyway, she went over this rack. It's an expensive store, but they had this sale rack. And she said, "Glenn, come here, look at this." And it's this dress. And it was real pretty. It was kind of a woven kind of thing, and it looked like a tablecloth, but it was, it was really pretty. And now here's what you can do. Here's the mistake that we make. Tell me if you've done this. So you go to a store with your wife, and she holds up something, and she says, "Isn't that pretty?" And what comes out of your mouth is, "Well, honey, if you like it, just buy it. Just buy it." And so Cindy likes candles, and this, I don't know, maybe a scarf. And so what happens? We go to a store together and she says, Glenn, look at this candle. And she'll put it up under my nose. That's how, you know how they do. You say, oh yeah, it smells good. That smells real good. You know, and you say, won't you just buy it? Just buy it. And what she'll do is she'll say, oh, I don't think so. I know. Well, see, that's not smart. What you should do is you say, I think that's real pretty. That's really nice. And as you're walking away, you remember what store you're in. You think, Belk, aisle 3, red candle. Belk, aisle 3, red candle. Belk, aisle 3, red candle. And what you do tomorrow on your lunch break, you go over to Belk and you buy that thing. Now, this is not applicable to if she admires a sports car. I'm not talking about that. But something you can afford, go back and buy it. Go buy it. And then you take it home and you put it in a secret place. And when it comes time to give her a gift, go to that place and get that thing. Now, why is that so important? In the first place, it's going to benefit you because it's hard when a birthday's coming up. Don't you have trouble with your wife trying to figure out what to get her? And I don't know if she's going to like this, and I'm going to waste this money. I don't know what I'm going to do. But you're doing yourself a favor. Find a place, maybe at your office, wherever you work, whatever, a place that you could stash these gifts. And so I bought her the dress. When she wasn't looking, she was in another part of that store. I went to the little girl and the clerk girl, and I said, you know that sale rack over there, there's a dress that looks a little like a tablecloth. You know which one? And she said, yeah, I know the dress. I said, okay, look, I want to buy that dress, but my wife's with me, and it's a surprise. I'll come back tomorrow. Would you just put that back, and I'll get it tomorrow? I'll be happy to. And so she did. Tomorrow I went and got it, and I put it away just like, and so I don't remember the occasion, but I wrapped up that dress, and I gave it to her, and when she opened it, it wasn't just that I bought her a present. I mean, she liked it. That's good, but she recognized it. Oh, gradually. I remember this dress. This is the one that I picked out. And I showed it to you, right? Well, yes, that's the one. Are you getting it? See, what that communicates to her is, I pay attention to you. And that's important. Is that important to your wife? Does she care if you're paying attention to her? Well, see, that'll communicate to her. You're showing her affection according to knowledge. Here's the next one, the Michael Bolton category. The Michael Bolton, and there's more than one Michael Bolton. I'm thinking about the one who sang When a Man Loves a Woman. I just named it that. But what I want you to remember in this category of affection is this rule. Ready? Never, ever criticize your wife in front of other people. Don't ever do that. And sometimes a man has a kind of a strange sense of humor, and he likes to make his wife the butt of jokes. And people will chuckle, and maybe she'll even chuckle. You be real careful about that. And never, ever criticize her in front of other people. You want to be a smart husband, flip that over, and this is, I'm telling you, this is huge. When you're with other people and you find a way, you compliment your wife in front of other people. Look, I don't have to tell you this, because this is goose gander stuff. If you're with other people and your wife compliments you in front of them, how does that feel? You know, you're at somebody's house and you're looking at this coffee table and the wife says, my husband made this coffee table. You say, oh, that's nice. And what if your wife says, well, my husband's a woodworker, and you know what? I'm amazed by what he can do. He makes beautiful things. A lot of the things in our house, he made because he is so creative. How's that feel? How's that feel? Oh, I'm telling you, that's music. That is music, because what you want is for your wife to have admiration for you. You don't want to be her project, you want to be her hero. The Michael Bolton category is that you're never going to criticize her in front of other people. Don't do that. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Find a way to compliment her in front of other people. All right, here's the last one, the Superman category. Now, I want this to go down in your soul, gentlemen. You got to think about this with me. There are going to be times in the life of your wife, perhaps many, when she's going to need help with something. I want her to always reach for your hand first. Do you hear me? I want her to always reach out for your hand first, and that will happen because of the way in the past you've behaved when she has asked you to help her. And sometimes it's going to be over something that she did that was kind of dumb. She calls you on the phone, you're at work, and yes, dear, and you're busy, got lots to do, yes, dear. Oh, I'm so sorry to call you. I know how busy you are, but I'm at Walmart and I've locked the keys in the car again. Now, you say, well, which Walmart? And it's not the one that's just right a few blocks. This is the Walmart way out there. And you have two choices, gentlemen. You got two choices. And one of them is to say, I can't believe you did that. I mean, didn't you just do that about 2 weeks ago? And didn't we have this? I told you. Why can't you get this? Can't you figure this out? Why not? I'm busy. I'll tell you what, I'll come over there, but it's going to be a while. I got clients in here. It's going to take me a while. I'll come when I can come. Okay? Goodbye. You just shot yourself in the foot. You go ahead, drive up there, and you say, here, I got to go. I love you. Goodbye. When you get home that night, how do you suppose things are going to be? But you blew a wonderful opportunity. You're no Superman. You want me to tell you how to be a Superman? Think when you get to that spot, your wife does a dumb thing and she said, I like the keys in the car, I'm so sorry. And you say, here's the second way you could react. I mean, by the way, you're going to unlock the car. I should have said that. Whatever else is true, you're going to unlock the car. But the other way to approach it would be to say, well, you know what, that's okay, I understand it. Are you in a safe place? If not, go in the store and get your cell phone. So I'll call you. I've got a client, but I'll get there as quick as I can. And when you get there, she's going to say, I know how busy you are, and I did that dumb thing, and I'm so sorry. Come here, give me a kiss. Let me hug you. I'm so glad to see you in the middle of the day. And then you say, Superman, you say, you know what? I can take an extra 15 or so. You want a cup of coffee? So you had a chance, if you'd wanted to really let her have it. She interrupted your day after all, but you didn't do it. Instead, what you did was to use it for a chance to say, I sure am glad to see you, and how about a hug, right? Now, gentlemen, that's Superman. That's the Superman category. You already got this figured out about some things. I mean, we do. Some things are rather natural. If you are upstairs, middle of the night, and you're sleeping with your wife, and there's a window broken downstairs suddenly, 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's coming in that house. You hear it. What are you going to do? You're going to say, honey, I got up last time. There's a 38 in the drawer. Would you go see about that? Right? See, you know why that's funny? Because you're a man, that's why. And you just know. Are you kidding? What you're going to do is go get that 38, and you're going to get in between your wife and the danger. That's what you're going to do. You're going to protect her no matter what. That's what we do. Right. But sometimes protecting her is not so very obvious. And sometimes it's going to be that she does something that is dumb. You've got to remember, gentlemen, that if your wife does something dumb, get it in your mind, because tomorrow it's going to be that you ever do a dumb thing? Don't we do? We should have thought we do dumb things. It'll be you tomorrow. I want you to remember this night and remember the Superman category. The Superman category is a man that has a two-wheel tilt trailer, one of those lawnmower trailers that tilts down and you drive that thing on there. It's wonderful. But I tell you what, backing up a two-wheel trailer is an art. And most of you, if not all of you, can do it. You know what I mean. You had to practice. It's not easy because jackknifes, it's just cattywampus. And so one day he brings the family SUV with a trailer, drops off the mower. It's all at his workplace, and his wife rushes in and says, I got to have the SUV. I'm in a big hurry. I tell you what, honey, the trailer's on there, and that's kind of hard to back. Let me back it out for you. Look, I know how to do it. I just have to go, okay? I know how to do it. And in her mind, and he says, okay, all right, be careful. And so she zips down there. In her mind, what she's thinking is, if you keep the steering wheel straight, the trailer will back straight. Why? That's not true. That's not true. So she hops in and throws it into gear, and it jackknifes, and she cuts a gash in the side of that SUV. Boom! Big old hole. And so he's standing at the window, and he's watching. Now, you have two choices. One of them isn't, are you going to fix the SUV? Sir, that is spent money, right? Already spent. You could run down there and say, I don't know why you're so stubborn. I told you, but you wouldn't listen because you never listen. And she's going to cry and she's going to say, oh, I'm sorry. You're shooting yourself in the foot. How are things going to go with you? The Superman category recognizes this as an opportunity because, listen, she didn't mean to do that. It was a dumb thing, but she didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. And I can tell you that tomorrow you're going to have an accident. And it may cost more money than what that SUV costs to fix, right? That's just the truth. The Superman says, I could let her have it over this. But this is an opportunity, and I'm not going to do it. Be a Superman. And that means you go down there, and she's crying, and she says, I'm so sorry. Look what I did. Look, and you told me, but I wouldn't listen, and now look what I did. And you say, come here. Are you okay? Are you all right? Listen, everybody has accidents sometimes. It's going to be okay. Right? Let me back it and let me fix it for you, but we'll take care of that. And I know you didn't mean to do it, and I love you. How are things going to be that night when you get home? Learn the lesson. These are the ways that we dwell with our wives according to knowledge. And these are the ways that we show affection to them in a language which they understand, right? Now it's different from men. We're different, but these are the languages that the wife understands about affection. Now, we're right on time. These are papers I gave to your wives. They didn't put their names on them, and I haven't read any of them. I haven't read a single one of them. I'm going to do it now. The note says, in the last 2 weeks, the most romantic thing my husband has done for me, and then it's blank, right? Nervous? You should be nervous. Most romantic. I don't do this for the men. I love this experiment. I love to do it. I never do it for the men because I think to ask them this question, the answers would be mono-themed, right? But not for the women. They're different, and that's why we're going to do it. The most romantic thing my husband did for me in the last 2 weeks, he works extra hard to be sure that I enjoy intimacy. All right, well, that's kind of sexual. All right. This one's unusual. All right. Every man here thinks this is his wife. Most romantic thing, last 2 weeks, preparing supper for me. Last 2 weeks. He calls or texts me randomly through the day. He paid my credit card off. He tells me I look so pretty. He cleaned out my car. He brought me breakfast in bed. On a day where I was unexpectedly off work, he asked me to come meet him for lunch. Then we went home and watched an old movie together. He let me take a nap, and he picked up the kids. Most romantic thing, last couple of weeks, he took me out to dinner so I wouldn't have to cook. He did the dishes. She put 3. This is a great man. He scraped the ice off the windshield, and he texted me, I love you, when he was out of town. Most romantic thing, last couple of weeks, spontaneous date to go see a movie that I was interested in. He had a lot to do, but he took time for me. He brought me a diet drink on the way home from work, and he opened my door tonight. He picked up his clothes and towels off the floor. You're owning it. He took me shopping. That's a sacrifice. He stopped what he was doing and listened to where I needed to tell him and gave attentive feedback. He watched and played with the kids and gave me a little alone time. He took me along on his business trip so I could walk on the beach while he was in meetings. He supported me through my mother's illness and death. Now, out of all of these, we had one that was sexual. And I ask you, where's the sex? Because what I ask him is, in the last couple of weeks, the most romantic thing your husband did for you, what is it? And how come that sex isn't the main theme in this? The answer isn't that they don't like sex. The answer is that they're just different from us. And when they think about affection, it's not what you and I normally think of. And we've got to learn this lesson because the good book says to dwell with them according to knowledge. Let's pray. Thank you, Father, for giving us our wives, for someone in this life who knows us so very well and still loves us, and for making women different from us in ways that are so delightful and sometimes so challenging, to have wives who complete us in so many wonderful ways. Help us, Father, to be good men to our wives. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, gentlemen, now what we're going to do now is this. With your permission, Eric, what we're going to do is we've got about a 5-minute thing that I want to do, y'all to do with the women in just a couple of minutes. We've got to wait till they're finished, and it should be any minute now. So we'll just visit in here until then we'll go in there and we'll do that thing. Is that okay? Great. So just relax. Oh, that'll be perfect. Thank you. All right.